Hi everyone, it's Sana Ali here from Property Twins, and today we are speaking with one of our clients, Nitin Parak. Hi Nitin, how are you doing?
Good, Sana. How are you?
I'm really well, thanks. I'm just gonna check in with everyone who's watching. Please say hello to Nitin, and yeah, let us know you're there. And if you're watching the replay, then put hashtag replay so we know you've caught up on this live. So Nathan, I guess I know we've worked together for a number of years, and today's live is really focused on your experience with the Property Investors Academy and how you successfully went and did your purchase in a very short time frame, and we'll get to that in a moment. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of your purchase journey and what you bought, would you mind sharing a bit about what you do, your family?
Sure. So we came to Australia back in 2013. Been here, got two kids now. Currently, they're overseas. Yeah, stuck in this. We are stuck in this COVID bubble here in Australia, so it's good. The idea, the idea always has been between me and my wife to build generational wealth, right? So we've been lucky with our parents that they've built for ourselves, but then we didn't want to just rely on what our parents have, and we wanted to do the same for our kids. Currently, my wife has been for the past probably 5 6 years. She hasn't been working just because trying to get the raise
Yeah.
up the kids. Um, so been single income, but then the idea is I work in the aged care and disability sector. Um, as a senior manager in there. So that's the background from that perspective. We have our own residence here. So we have a principal place of in Sydney. We are based in Sydney. We have our own house here, and then we started going on that journey of, and that's how we connected up with you guys when we did the refinance for this house. That's the way we got in touch with you guys, and then we went on that path of investment purchase from there.
Yep.
So
And you
yeah.
had done your first investment property purchase a couple of years ago. And
Yep, 2 years
uh,
back
yeah,
through a buyer's agent. Uh, but yeah,
and
that
this
was a
time,
first foray.
sure. And I know you'd been thinking about a second investment. We'd been talking about it for a number of months. So tell us, what was life like before you joined the Property Investors Academy?
So there was always this want to having to go and to do to get a second purchase, but there was always the thing that either I learn the skills myself or I just pay someone else to do it for me. Now, if yes, I was trapped for time, if I did not have at all time to spare, then yes. The question is, I didn't know how much time you needed to spend to be able to learn the skill yourself. But then when speaking to yourselves and then you guys came up with the whole Property Investors Academy at the start of this year, and the whole concept of how much time you will need to spend to take aside to actually do it, it felt as if I can spare that. That's probably one serial less on Netflix, and you could probably get to see it, get to learn the skill yourself. So it's all about priorities at the end of the day. What do you want to do? You want to watch Netflix or you want to learn a skill for yourself? So
Yes,
sorry, calling out Netflix like that, but yeah.
example wise. So what was your biggest challenge or struggle around searching and buying a quality investment property?
I guess the biggest thing is trying to understand what metrics you need to look for. What is the data that you need to look for? Not just the actual quantitative data, but also looking at what should it be, the qualitative information around it, and reinforcing. So one thing that I've always had is, if I don't like something, I won't go for it. And while in there, you guys have reinforced that search for some things that you should say no first, right? There are multiple different reasons for it, but I won't go into the reasons now. But the idea is searching for things that you would say no for, things that you would look out for, that to walk away, so you don't spend hours and hours doing research or analysis on that specific one. um, the analysis paralysis, I know you've mentioned this a lot before, that didn't to a certain degree, I still had that, because the idea was, what data do I look at to analyze stuff? What would tell me? I could look at everything under the sun, but then the question is that painting a good picture for me to go for it? And then also someone to verify the thoughts that I've had, that this is what, like, after analyzing, you come to a conclusion, right? Result saying this is what the data tells me, right? Whether it's right or wrong. And that was where having the group was good. So you could talk it out with the group as well as get feedback from you guys.
So curiousness, and obviously you refer to you still had some analysis paralysis. So can you tell us, sounds like it was may have been a rock bottom point, and what had you realized that something has to change?
I guess so. What had to change for me was, I can't keep relying on. So it was after the first purchase, you get into this thing. Okay, now I have one investment purchase, but then when you realize that if you don't keep doing it, you won't realize your goal of your passive income, that to get that. So it's not, someone has to do it for you. Now, yes, COVID came along, so we had a second born last year, so we didn't, I pushed it off from then. But the idea then hit that something will keep happening, life will keep happening. We can't delay these, and obviously the market waits for no one. The market keeps moving. So
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
best time is just now. Just get in whenever. Don't try to time the market.
Mm.
um, there's lots of sayings, right? Like, don't time the market, time in the market, not timing the market.
Yeah, absolutely. Often it is about time in the market. Timing plays some part in it, as long as you're not buying at the peak of the market. And
Correct.
that's another thing, looking at property cycles and where the market's at and how can you maximize that cycle. Why was this goal of achieving this investment property important to you?
There's two things there. One is trying to recycle the current debt that I have on my home loan to make it tax deductible, so that I pay this home loan off faster. So, and using the investment properties income. So like I mentioned, my wife hasn't been working for the past 5 6 years, so it's a single income family. So effectively now it becomes a three income family, and when she starts working, it'll be a four income family, even though there's two adults in there, and
Yeah.
onwards. And every time you add another investment property, it'll keep doing that.
Yeah,
So
that's
that was a, like, oh, okay, without having to increase waiting for kids to grow up and become adults, you can actually do that now.
yeah. Um, that's incredible. I've never thought of it that way, that you've got like two adults and two properties working for you, because there's
Correct.
whatever, whilst tax is only an icing on the cake, but you have assets going in parallel. So uh, I know you tried a buyer's agent before, so why learn yourself this time around?
Always been interested in property. Obviously you get interested with property, but the idea is, if I'm going to do this, if I had to do this only once, I would have gone property buyer's agency. But I know that I want to do multiple of these properties. I need to build up a lot of these properties to get to my goal of passive income goal that I have. So if I'm going to keep paying this for each and every purchase, I'm looking at, I mean, you multiply the amount by the number of properties that I would want to buy. That's a down payment for another property itself.
Mm,
So the
yeah.
question is, do I do that or just learn it and just repeat the cycle every time? And you'll feel more in control of the decision that you've taken rather than relying, because sometimes with the buyer's agency, they're good, depends on who you get, but at the end of the day, you're still relying on their expertise, and you just say, yes, let's go ahead with that. If you had the unfortunate, I am lucky that I had a good one, because they were backed by you guys. But the idea being that there's lots of stories of people being sold, not lemons, but not exactly the greatest
Yeah.
of properties, which haven't done well, which have
Yeah,
costed
well,
them more.
it's
Yeah.
unfortunate, right? An industry that sometimes can be driven by volume and how many deals a buyer's agent does.
Correct.
You might just be a number. Again, depends on every business's practice, right? And what brings me to the question is, obviously you wanted to learn, rinse and repeat, and obviously that potentially is a deposit for an investment property, right? 10% deposit. So tell us, how did you find out about the Property Investors Academy?
You mentioned it on this post back in Jan, I think, that something new is cooking up and you excited to launch something.
Yeah.
Um, and then the moment it was property investor, I saw that I think I just signed up for it and I said, I want to do a call with you
Yeah.
guys. I signed up for the call. Um, and I think in the call, you went through the whole process of what it would entail, how much time, require like commitment is needed for me and everything. And I think I was the only one on the call. And towards the end, I said, sign me up. And you were like, don't you guys to check with your wife first? Because obviously we are in it together. But I said, no, I think she backs me and I'm trusting you guys. So let's go for it.
Yeah. Often, Nitin, we don't do meetings without both partners. But yeah, I
Exactly.
know because we have been working together for so long. And what was your biggest fear or reservation about joining the academy?
I think the biggest fear for me was whether I'll be able to achieve the outcome that I've joined in there. Right. So that was initially when you start off, you like, okay, will to not sure what kind of data you're looking at, what will you be able to, because when you see a piece of art, everyone thinks of it differently. Everyone can decipher it differently. So the question is, if you look at the same data, I would decipher
Yeah.
it differently to someone else. Will I get the same message that what we're looking for, right? That's what
Mm.
the idea would be. But then that became very clear once you start going through the modules within the academy,
Yeah.
that how to
It's
decipher it also.
it's very zeroed in on
Yep.
specific metric. It's not like, yeah, you go look at 100 metrics, and we'll get to your purchase in a little bit. But I'd like to know what were the most helpful lessons or takeaways for you, and how did you apply them?
I think the most helpful one for me was clarity on what metrics are the most important ones. Secondly, many times what happens is people just end up saying, oh, I like this suburb, it looks good, but they don't actually write it down. So when you start writing information down and you start putting it into a proper structure, it becomes even more clear whether you should, because when you start writing it down, it becomes clear at that point whether you should investigate further or just drop it and move on to the next one. So there's been those key moments because I'm used to, like, when you go on real estate or domain and find
Yeah.
a property, you just look at it, the photos, and no one bothers to put down details about it, like
Yes.
actually note it down. So that was another thing that no, you need to document, treat it like a business, document things.
Mm. And framework, right? You're just
Correct.
you're applying the framework and putting different pieces of the puzzle together so you can call
Correct.
the shots when you find that zero in on that property. So what surprised you most about the program?
How easy it is.
Really? Wow.
So
That's awesome to hear.
So the idea is the only thing stopping you is your own fear of not being able to do it. But if you get past that fear and you just like, okay, I need to learn this skill, I need to do it, it's easy. It's
Mm.
very easy after that because it becomes clear. It becomes there's a clarity when you start going through it. The fog lifts and you can see where you're going to.
So that makes me curious. Would it have been easy if you were not part of the program?
No, I don't think so. I would have stumbled a lot around and I might, I would have shot arrows in the dark, like blind, hoping they would land somewhere. And I would only know 10, 15 years down the track whether I did a right thing or a wrong thing. But that's a long time to, I would have, yeah, I would not have reached my
Mm.
goals then.
So it's better to have that clarity, make it easy for you, than buy a lemon and learn through mistakes of
Correct.
hundreds of thousands of dollars
Definitely.
later.
Definitely. Because it's too an expensive mistake. It's a very inexpensive mistake if you make it.
Yeah, because that brings me to the question that, the average investor out there is just buying properties based on, say, depreciation benefits. So,
Correct.
yeah,
Or
and
emotional, even emotional because it looks good.
yeah.
Um, and that's something there. There's benefits in actually going and seeing a property yourself also, but
Mm.
then in my head it's always good to do it, treat it as a business transaction, so no emotions attached to it.
Yeah.
um, that's what I would end up doing.
Yeah. And did anybody ever discourage you from joining the academy?
No.
No one.
No, no one. Mainly because this was between me and my wife, so we didn't tell anyone else that we're going and look, we're going to go, because the idea is we are doing it for ourselves. We're not doing it for the world to know that we're going to keep buying properties or whatever, right? So
Mm.
it was all about learning a skill for ourselves, um, and it was very clear we're going to do it. End of story. We're not going to listen to anyone else now.
That's excellent. And did you ever feel like, oh, I want to quit and I don't want to do this anymore? How did you overcome it?
No, that luckily didn't happen because the group, along with you guys being the moderators and providing all the learnings and that teaching us, the group was very turned on and switched on. And the questions that were being asked was like, you wouldn't have thought of those, but then the moment they discuss that, you actually push yourself and try to figure out, okay, what would that mean for my own journey? It might not relate to your journey, like someone's talking about startup properties or anything else. I might not be interested in it, but it's still a good, you're increasing your knowledge base.
Mm.
So I think that was another good part of the group itself.
The forum, yeah.
Yeah.
And what was your first big win that you got using the Property Investors Academy, or a moment where you realized, oh, wow, this actually works?
When I narrowed down on my suburbs, when I
Hmm.
narrowed down on which suburbs,
Yeah.
and to show uh, and could see, yes, the data is looking right. I am in the right direction. Now it's just a matter of waiting for the right property to come along within those areas for me to
Mm.
jump on.
And backing it up with fundamentals. And
Yes,
Nitin, when you were first narrowing down those suburbs, I was really skeptical. I thought they were outside your budget by at least $50,000, but
agreed.
you were like really set on that I am going to look at that. Because there was a lot going on with the location. So in just general terms, for the benefit of our audience, tell us a bit about your purchase, or what you bought.
Sure. I bought a 4 bedroom, 2 bath house on a 660 square meter block in southeast Queensland, in next to Brisbane. Um, got it for mid 500s, even though the typical price for that suburb was at 600s.
So similar properties were selling for
Correct.
600K, and like
Yeah,
effectively you made like 48K just going into the market.
exactly. Plus, the other benefit was that this property was already tenanted for another year. So they just had signed a whole year lease. So that means effectively owners, occupiers were out of the equation for me. It was just, I was fighting off with other investors trying to get that property. Uh,
Question, it was positively geared when you bought,
yep,
and did you manage to I know you got 10K knocked off your original offer, but did you get an additional $1,000 off that
I
you were
did.
planning on? You did.
Yes.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank
That's all.
you.
We didn't talk about that one.
No. So I've got another 1,000 off. So effectively, what's happened is instead of giving me the off, they've decided to fix up everything for
Okay.
based on my code, on the
Yeah,
code that I've received. They just said, we'll let your guy come in and fix it up everything, and we'll just pay it off.
excellent.
So
That's awesome.
yeah,
Good for you. And talking about your purchase, obviously that's one thing, making something like 48,000 or 50,000 going into the market. Uh, Amazing achievement. And there's a lot going on for the area as well. It's
there
backed by
is
fundamentals. The property is also, you can land
zoned.
bank for future. It's zoned for
Correct.
development as well.
It's zoned for
And
development. It's got good potential for itself as it is. The mark and the rent is already at market. So
mhm.
even though I got it below market effectively, but the rent is at market. So that's one of the reasons why it's being positively geared on that basis. Um, and from the time I got my finance approval, within 40 days, I had found this property. In fact, within 40 days, I signed the contract for the property,
Yeah,
not found the property yet.
sign the contract. And that's amazing because, often people say, oh, not finding property in 90 days. I know the program itself is 120 days now, but
Correct.
people just can't fathom the idea they'll be able to buy in 90
120
days.
days,
But
90 days. Yeah.
yeah, 90 or 120 days. But do you think, Nitin, if you were starting
It's,
again today, you will
yep.
absolutely find that property in the next 40 days?
This is my second property I made an offer on. So the first property I
Yeah.
made an offer on, didn't get it. That's fine.
Mm.
But the idea is, it's my second offer that I made. So I haven't made multiple offers, and I have not been sitting around. I have not been able to get anywhere in the market. It was being very clear on what I wanted, having those fundamentals clear. So I'm not hitting, like, I'm not shooting arrows everywhere. I'm just making sure if this property meets my
Mm.
requirements, I'm going
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah, well, that's exactly Mona and my philosophy, even in our buyer's agency, in our own property portfolio, and even with our members of the Property Investors Academy. The average person spends a whole day
Yep.
looking at 10 open houses and they still don't know which one fits their strategy, where the metrics work,
Correct.
and they don't even know what they're looking for. They don't have a clear property selection strategy. They haven't done their cash flows.
The cash flows as well. The idea is, how will this property feed into your strategy?
Mm,
That has not been cleared. So
yeah,
if that has been clear, it becomes even more clear. You have cash flow. Even before you even talk to an agent, you would do your cash flows up and ready and set it up. So
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and also, I would say what you also leverage was asking the right questions as you went along, because obviously those are the questions that build the trust with the agent.
Correct.
So they know that, oh, this person actually knows what they're talking about. And in the academy, we do deep dive. And as you said, it's so simple. Someone was like, oh, is that all there is? We're like, yeah, that's what it is. And what price do you put on it? Like, making 48,000 going into the market. Tell us what price you put on that.
Uh, So sorry, the price I would put. So the if I were to think about this, if I've like going through the purchase, and today is the day it's gone unconditional also. So the
Congratulations.
thank you. I guess the two things now, going through this whole process, I'm not regretting what I paid for my first investment purchase as a buyer's agency. I don't regret that, because it's not just about going to open homes, finding properties, doing the research, the time spent. But as soon as you do the contract, there's a lot of project management behind that
Yep,
happens. A lot of
absolutely.
communication, a lot of back and forth, because you have the real estate agents, you have the inspections, all the building and pest, finance, building and pest, electrical. Then you've got the solicitors. You need to
Mm,
talk to all the brokers. You need to sit and communicate, and all of it has to go through you. They don't talk to each other.
yep.
All of it goes through you. So making sure everyone is on the same page all the time, all documents are going left, right, and center, they're all properly done. That is all what the buyer's agency would do, and you're paying them for a service for that.
Mm,
So it just depends on personal preference. If you have the time and the will to learn, yes, do it yourself. If you just decide, no, that's a cost of my purchase that I'm going to go through a buyer's agency, well, that's your choice, go for it.
yeah.
But like I mentioned, I am thinking long term. If I'm going to buy five, six of these like properties more, not necessarily in the next year, but irrespective in the coming years, if I'm going to drop 15K for each time, that's a down payment for another house.
Yeah, and you can effectively apply the framework to any part of Australia, regardless of
Exactly.
where you're buying. So
I
that's what
haven't,
matters.
yeah, and I haven't visited this property that I bought. In fact, I haven't even visited the first property the investment property. I still haven't seen
Mm,
it. So it's both sight unseen.
yeah. Well, your numbers worked, and
Exactly.
and uh, tell us when you made this purchase happen, the offer was accepted, you knew you had made money going into the market, it was going to be positive cash flow, the fundamentals were going to stack up. How did it feel?
It felt like a massive win. The only problem was family is not here to celebrate it properly,
Yeah.
but it was a massive, massive win, and it felt really good that yes, you have achieved what you set out to. Um, Probably what, almost 2 months back, right? 40 days plus whatever. What you went in with that vision of thinking, yes, I want to get this and narrow down, and actually getting out of the other end was good. Yes, a new process started of doing all the contracts and everything else, but that's fine. You've got it in the bag after that, so that's
Yeah,
easier.
and I was really impressed, right? You had no building issues, no pest issues in this particular deal that you shortlisted, which was a nice surprise, right? And
Correct.
it happens with older houses, it seemed really well maintained and set and forget purchase, really. And Nathan, often people say, "Oh, how much time do I have to invest? I'm really busy with life." And of course, life is busy. How much were you investing? I know with family overseas, you probably had a little more time, but
Correct, but it's still,
but even then, how much
yeah,
did you
it was
invest?
probably, you were probably spending, so I was doing a lot of catch up, but if I didn't do a catch up, you were spending at least 1 hour to maximum 2 hours a week.
Wow.
So it's not at all too much time consuming. 2 hours in a week is easily taken out from somewhere. You can easily manage that, especially if you want to do your self growth. You want to grow somewhere and create that wealth. 2 hours a week seems
At most.
yeah, at
So,
most.
so, so you purchased within 8 weeks from joining the program,
Correct.
and 2 hours a week. That's 16 hours of investment.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
So it's
Plus,
not much.
yeah,
Yeah.
plus study and a lot of, yeah, you attended a lot of sessions live
Yeah.
anyway.
So attending sessions live, you attend them, you get to learn while that also is there. But apart from that, 16 hours, you just, couple of hours first is just when you put the things, when you start writing things down, you don't have to spend hours because you can keep referring back to it and refining
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Keep
So
building the blocks
correct.
effectively.
Because otherwise, if it's all in the head, you're wasting, because you don't have something written to go back to all the time to keep you,
Mhm.
like it's a flag post. It always brings you back to that, uh, yeah,
Yeah.
location.
And I guess you've answered this already. How is that your life different now? What's important about having learned all this?
There's comfort in knowing that if I want, whenever I'm ready for the next one, it's it's not, it's sim I have compared it similar to, how you learn how to ride a bicycle once. Even after a couple of years, if you try to get back on, you dust yourself and you can, couple of minutes, and then you'll get it again. It's like
Yep.
that now. You know what,
Mm,
how to do it again. You've done it once, so there's confidence that you can do it again now. You wouldn't
yeah.
have the fear in there of,
Yep.
can I do this again or not? um,
Yeah. Yes. And Nitin, I guess what Mona and I have put together is, our life's work. It's what
yep.
we've studied over the last 11 years, 22 plus years between us, made our own mistakes through the journey. And program effectively is what we do as buyers agents. And in our meetings, nothing is held back in our group sessions. Time to time, someone comes along and say, "Oh, XYZ dollars is the investment into the program." Obviously, I don't want to share the investment because
Yep.
that's about to change with the masterclass and all. Um, but what I'm curious is, what value do you place on that investment versus the 48,000 you've made in the positive cash flow from day dot?
It's even before you make any 45 48,000 or whatever. Before that, the moment you join it, you've made your money back, because it's a lifelong learning that you get in there. So it's not
Yeah.
just, whatever the investment is not for one property. Imagine that to be for multiple. If you were to imagine it this way, if I was a buyer's agent and I told you that you would have to pay me once a fee and you can buy 6 properties from there, you're just paying me for one time, and every 6 properties I will buy for you without any other fee. So the remaining 5, all free. Would you go ahead for that deal or not? It's a similar concept. You're paying
Yeah.
for that one time, and you can keep buying as many as you want.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as your fundamentals work out, your borrowing capacity.
Yes.
But yes.
Yeah, well, amazing analogy there, Nathan. And you've had this success. I know there'll be a little bit of pause till you can purchase, but what are you excited about next?
um, I'm excited about. So I know that don't have to worry so much about my wife joining back work, because yes, there's two other, like 2 more income streams coming in. So she can take her time. We can spend time with kids. We can, make sure they, because obviously early years are formative years. So trying to make sure, everything's well from them, especially now with COVID, even more pressures on making sure kids are, because you miss the whole socialization aspect when you're outside.
Yeah.
So um, it's it's knowing that we are not bound to, to financially be secure. We don't have to rush in and sacrifice family life to be able to uh, live that, get money, run behind money effectively,
Yeah.
making our money work for us rather than running behind money and earning money.
Excellent. And what advice would you have for someone who, who's been thinking about joining the academy, and what would you say to them?
The cost of the academy, if I would say it's a no-brainer to join, but to give it in another respect, if they don't join the academy and if they don't get through, it's either go through experts, or if you trust yourself so much well and good, go for it yourself. But then the problem is, don't live with that regret or 10, 15 years wondering whether you've made the right decision or the wrong. There's a group of people backed by yourselves who will ask the right questions, and you guys will provide, guide them in where to go and what are they doing the right thing. So it's like when you learn a car the first time, you have a trainer in there, sitting there. He's not driving for you. He's just guiding you. That's the whole concept. I imagine this Property Investors Academy.
Yeah.
Again, trying to visualize it. It's like that. You're just guiding someone in there. You're not driving it for them, but you're
And you
hoping
drive
them.
for life.
Correct. And you're just there to press the brakes if they're going to make a mistake. You press the brakes before they do, to
Yeah.
guide them. This is not the way to go. Yeah,
Or go for your L's and driving learning
exactly. All
on your
alone,
own.
that's it. You're gone.
And any accidents along the way, I guess you pay the
Correct.
price for that. And is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience?
Trying to think what. I mean, obviously, we've spoken about what I've learned out of it. Uh, I think within the group also, there's been a couple which we have said. Some of them have become semi-buyers agents themselves,
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
Uh, and across the board, when you hear stories from the group remaining that they have been successful, it really lifts the spirits of everyone saying yes, because it's not, we don't look at everyone saying, oh, we're competing with them. No, we are
Mm.
actually happy and we say yes. It's like a batch. If you're going to do your masters or whatever, it's like, you're that one cohort. You're like, yes, we're all being graduating out of it or something. That's the feeling you get.
Yeah, well, 83.33% success rate in the program,
Yeah,
of the people who join and who could actually go and purchase. 83% purchase within 90 days.
exactly.
And
That's
most of
not.
them, yeah, most of them are freaked out that, oh, would we be able to even do that?
And most of them had, this was their first investment purchase, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
most,
Yeah,
some second, most first.
yeah. So
Yes.
that talks volumes. Yeah,
Yeah, and as you said, one with it's the ease of implementation,
yeah,
and as what Mona and I always believe, with clarity comes certainty, and yeah, it's about just following a framework. And again, what's the cost of analyzing and paralyzing for the next 12 months? What do you think
correct.
would have happened if you had waited 12 months, or research for 12 months?
If I had, I would have sat and researched, but I would not got anywhere. So I would have paid this 48K that I would have made sitting. I've lost that. First of all, I've lost that. Plus the opportunity cost of me spending hours and hours unproductive
Yeah.
makes no sense. So i- if I were to pay 16 hours, like let's do 16 hours, minimum wage, right? You put minimum wage and you see how much have you actually spent, time cost, if someone was to pay me to
Yeah,
do it, and how much have I got out of it.
true.
So that would be some way. If someone really wants to do cost benefit analysis, go for it. You'll.
I like your analogies, Nitin. They all make sense. Awesome. So I guess we'll just open to the group if anybody has questions,
Sure.
unless Nitin, you have something to add. If
No,
anyone watching has questions for Nitin. Thank you so much for
no, it's all
making the
good.
time today.
No, it's all good.
So
It's always the thing, when you find something good, you should tell everyone about it.
that's true.
Yeah.
So guys, any questions? Oh yes, Siraj popped the link to the Property Investors Academy. That's meetme.so/Property Investors Academy. And Phil said, thanks for sharing, bro. Thanks,
Thanks, Phil.
Nitin. Anyone else?
I guess the idea is it's pretty straightforward now. I mean, like you said, 83%. So it's overwhelming that they can't be a good valid reason for not to, unless someone has something else. But if they're really
Um,
interested in purchasing and learning the
actually,
skills, they should go for it.
we've had a few people say, well, there's other programs out there that offer lifetime access, versus we said, no, this is only 120 days
Yep.
access. What are your thoughts of being somewhere where it's lifetime access versus somewhere there's 120 days?
If there's no time pressure, you won't do it yourself. You'll
Mm,
always keep thinking, yeah, okay, that's fine. I'll get to it. I'll get to it. I'll get to it. When you're all driving, there's a reason why all college degrees are time bound. You have to finish in 2 years or whatever. If they said it's a lifetime access, you will never show up for class.
you wouldn't, yeah.
You will
Um,
never show up. Yeah.
and I suppose I want to touch on the fact that Mona and I, being buyers agents, right? We're pretty much translating our life's work in the program. But
Yep.
there's many programs out there, and some are really unlicensed as well. Like people who don't have any financial license or credit license or real estate license running.
Correct. And I guess this couple of things there where um, from you guys, you have not only what you say, but it's been validated by, you've come up in magazines and other places and everything else. So there has been documented journey about how you guys have reached here, right? Like you
Yeah.
said about the others, the documentation is self-created sometimes. So the
Mm,
question is, how much can you rely on self-created? I could go about claiming here lots of things if I want to. The question is there any way to verify that?
yeah.
Um, so, and look, to each their own at the end of the day.
Mm.
The
Yeah,
question
to
is,
each to their own. But what bothers, unfortunately, me about the
yeah,
industry is the false promises of,
it is.
yeah, anything, you'll retire. You're on your way to
Okay.
$100,000 in like 6 months.
There's a lot of them. So even like we've got people like, so the suburb starts going up, real estate agent starts hitting the doors and saying, I've just sold this property, do you want to sell it? Like, no, this is a house, we want to stay in here, we don't want
Yes,
to sell.
it's a home, family
It's a
home,
home. So
right?
the idea is there's a lot of people there ready to, because they have got property starts booming, people jump into the market
Mm,
thinking, let's make while the property is hot. What's the
yeah,
saying? Let's make hay while the sun shines, effectively, right? So I guess that's what it is, that people get in at the moment. If the market goes bust, for example, all of them will jump out and go into somewhere else, and that's what
yeah,
happens.
yeah,
Um,
for
but
sure.
that's fine.
Yeah, and Romana said, what other basic due diligence checks did you do? I think, Romana, you'll have to join the program to find out what Nitin applied, right? There
True,
were so many steps
there
to
was.
that. And Supreet's asking, what's the best thing about the program?
Clear. It's like imagine going to a college degree or whatever, like, structuring the course effectively, structuring your thoughts, what you need to do, not jumping across straight away, making clear from where do you start and where to finish. Because otherwise, without a clear path, you'll start anywhere. Imagine going to a college degree and not giving you, this is what the course is, each term we're going to do this. We just say these are all the subjects, choose what you want to study and do it. You will never get across that. um, so it's that concept, having clear what it is from the start to end, because it's how do you structure your thoughts and the research also along the way, as well as
Yeah,
due diligence at the end. Yeah.
absolutely. Supreet, does it answer your question?
Sorry.
I'm asking
Oh,
Supreet if it answers
okay.
the question. uh, Anyone else, guys? While we have Nitin here, if you have any questions, pop them in. Yeah, Supreet said yes. Awesome. It does. So yeah, so I'm excited, Nitin. I'm excited for this purchase, and I can't wait to see a similar property sell
I
soon.
know. I'm waiting to see. I'm keeping eyes on the market to see what else that's happening. Um, there were properties before this one snapped, a month before this one got sold, the one which I picked up, which was sold for, I think, high 500s, like extremely close to
Mm,
600. So Yeah.
And what's a median? 600 minimum, right, in the
600.
area?
So the reason why that got sold, because owner occupiers were also involved. So the
Yeah,
idea is when owner occupiers get involved, emotion plays in, then they try to outbid everyone else out.
yeah,
So you
yeah. So
can't put a
good, good,
price on that.
good work, Nitin.
Thank you.
Supreet's also saying good job, Nitin. That's true. It is, it's
Yeah.
being astute, and it's also about calling the shots and really backing yourself up, and which you did in the
There were a couple
process.
of places where I could have tripped up. I think where the agent, so I'll give a little bit of a, the agent said they put inviting all offers effectively on the
Mm,
listing. So when I spoke to the agent, I said, "What's the price range?" They said mid 500s. I was like, "Okay." And I said, "What's the point of inviting all offers? What's the concept? How's the process?" They said, "Either you can put in a expression of interest, or you can sign the contract and give an offer." I said, "What's the expression of interest process? Because if I do that, what would that mean? Are you still going to hold an open home?" They said, "Yep, we'll hold an open home. It's just an expression that way." Then, while thinking about it, basically what the agent was trying to do is trying to get a sense of where the market would be with my expression
mm,
of interest if I put in. And if they had an open home, they would have used my expression of interest to set the base and then ask for higher. So I would have shot myself in the foot if I had to. I would bid myself. I would be bidding against myself if I did the offer then. So I said, no, I'm not going to put an expression of interest. I'm going to go straight for the
mm.
offer after the open home.
Excellent.
Yeah,
And Nitin, Supreet saying, how did you know which area you wanted to go in? So basically, that was just applying the
correct.
framework, right, around which metrics we use, what we are looking for, what fundamentals we are ticking
Exactly.
off that fed
Again, it
into that.
starts broader first before you even look at data, looking at what your strategy is, clarifying that, going further down there.
Mm,
Um,
yeah, we will be talking about it in the Thursday masterclass.
yes. Yep.
We will be going through that. Awesome. Last minute, any other last minute questions, guys? No?
That's good.
The group is little bit quiet.
I think everyone's not happy about the extended lockdowns.
Yeah, that's true. Farzana, all the best, Nitin, for more
Thank
future
you.
purchases.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All the
Thanks.
best to everyone too.
Yes, very excited what's next. And thank you so much, Nitin, for making the time today.
Thank
Really
you, Sana.
appreciate it. As
Yep.
always, it's always really good working with you. And I think what the best thing about you is just being open to learning and being shown the way. And, not everyone's like that. So thank you for that,
Thank
and
you. Thank you for the kind words.
congratulations.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, guys, thank you so much. We'll chat soon.